Fairmont Crest is about to become the stage for a series of moments that feel deceptively intimate on the surface, yet dangerously transformative beneath it. As the week of February 2nd through February 6th unfolds with emotional pivots that will quietly reshape relationships and power dynamics across the community. What appears at first glance to be a collection of personal milestones and unsettling discoveries gradually reveals itself as something far more volatile, where love, fear, ambition, and control intertwine in ways that no one involved can fully anticipate. At the heart of the week lies the promise of a surprise engagement, a development that seems designed to offer romance and hope, but instead exposes how fragile certainty has become within Fairmont Crest. An unexpected proposal is never just about love here. It is a declaration made under pressure, a decision shaped as much by fear of loss as by devotion. The question of who will take that leap becomes a mirror reflecting the emotional fractures already present in several key relationships, forcing each character to confront what they are truly willing to sacrifice to avoid being left behind. Madison Montgomery and Chelsea Hamilton stand closest to the edge. Their relationship, once grounded in mutual admiration and shared dreams, now feels strained by distance, both literal and emotional. Madison's impending departure for an overseas research project has transformed what should have been a professional triumph into a source of quiet dread. The promise of prestige and purpose pulls her in one direction, while her connection to Chelsea anchors her firmly in another. For Madison, the choice is no longer simply about career versus love, it is about identity. Leaving Fairmont Crest means stepping into a future defined by ambition and independence, yet staying means acknowledging that love has begun to outweigh the very aspiration that once defined her. The possibility that Madison might propose to Chelsea emerges not as a spontaneous romantic gesture, but as a radical reorientation of her life's priorities. A declaration that she is willing to reshape her future rather than walk away from the one person who has become essential to her emotional survival. For Chelsea, such a proposal would arrive at a moment of vulnerability, forcing her to question whether love offered under such circumstances is a promise of stability or a desperate attempt to hold on to something already slipping away. At the same time, Vanessa McBride and Joey Armstrong's decision to move in together introduces another version of commitment, one built not on idealism but on negotiation and unspoken power. Joey, the casino owner whose charm masks a calculating mind, has always approached relationships with the same strategic awareness he applies to business. Living together could be interpreted as a practical step, a merging of lives that offers comfort without the finality of marriage. Yet the possibility that Joey might instead surprise Vanessa with a proposal complicates this narrative, transforming what seemed like a controlled progression into an emotional gamble. For Vanessa, whose past has taught her to be wary of grand gestures, an unexpected engagement would force her to confront whether Joey's intentions are rooted in genuine devotion or motivated by a desire to secure loyalty and control. In Fairmont Crest, love is rarely uncomplicated, and a ring can symbolize protection just as easily as possession. While romantic decisions occupy the spotlight, darker undercurrents move quietly through the week's events. Anita Dupree, long accustomed to wielding influence with calculated restraint, makes a bold move that signals a shift in her approach. This step is not impulsive. It is the result of mounting pressure and a growing awareness that maintaining the status quo may be more dangerous than risking change. Anita understands better than anyone that power in Fairmont Crest is never static. It must be asserted, defended, and occasionally reinvented. Her bold action carries consequences that ripple outward, unsettling allies and adversaries alike, and suggesting that she is prepared to confront threats directly rather than maneuver around them. In doing so, she exposes herself to scrutiny and resistance, but also reclaims a sense of agency that may have been eroded by years of careful compromise. As Anita steps forward, Shanice Johnson stumbles into a truth she was never meant to uncover. What she discovers is not merely shocking, it is destabilizing, a revelation that reframes everything she thought she understood about the people around her. Shanice's horror does not come from the discovery alone, but from the realization that she has been living alongside deception without recognizing its presence. This moment forces her into an unwanted awakening, one where innocence gives way to suspicion and trust becomes a liability. The weight of what she knows isolates her, trapping her between the urge to expose the truth and the fear of what such exposure might unleash. In Fairmount Crest, knowledge is power, but it is also a burden that can destroy the person who carries it. Lurking in the shadows of these emotional upheavals is Grayson Perez, whose quiet demeanor conceals intentions that remain deliberately obscure. His actions suggest careful planning rather than impulse, a sense that he is positioning himself for a move that will alter the balance of power, in subtle yet irreversible ways. Grayson does not seek attention, he thrives on being underestimated. As others are distracted by romance, revelations, and bold declarations, he watches, calculates, and waits. His mysterious agenda hints at a longer game, one that may intersect with the choices being made by others in ways they cannot yet foresee. In a community where every decision leaves a trace, Grayson's silence becomes as telling as any confession. Taken together, these moments form a portrait of Fairmount Crest at a crossroads. Love is being tested not by external opposition, but by internal conflict and unresolved fear. Power is shifting hands, sometimes willingly, sometimes through force of circumstance. Truth is emerging where it was least expected, threatening to unravel carefully constructed lives. And beneath it all, the sense lingers that these events are not isolated incidents, but the opening movements of a larger reckoning. As the week draws to a close, the surprise engagement whoever ultimately claims that moment will stand as a symbol of the choices being made throughout Fairmount Crest, choices driven by desperation, hope, ambition, and the need for control. Anita's bold step will echo beyond its immediate impact. Shanice's discovery will haunt her long after the initial shock fades, and Grayson's quiet plotting will continue to gather momentum. What feels like resolution is merely the illusion of stability, because in Fairmount Crest, every promise carries a price, and every secret demands to be paid in full. The question is no longer what will happen next, but who will be prepared to face the consequences when the gates finally open and nothing can be contained any longer. The emotional temperature at Fairmount Crest continues to rise as personal rivalries, fragile romances, and quiet acts of defiance collide throughout the week, revealing how easily love can turn into resentment and how quickly vulnerability can become a source of strength. Beneath the polished surfaces and carefully curated smiles, old wounds are reopening, loyalties are being tested, and decisions once postponed are now demanding answers. Ava's discomfort begins subtly, almost invisibly, the moment she sees her half-sister laughing freely with Isaiah Hawthorne. There is nothing overtly inappropriate about the scene, yet it strikes a nerve Eva has tried for weeks to ignore. The sound of shared laughter feels too intimate, too effortless, stirring a mix of jealousy, insecurity, and unresolved rivalry that Eva struggles to contain. It is not simply about Isaiah, it is about comparison, about the quiet fear that her sister seems to move through relationships with an ease Eva herself has never possessed. What should have been a fleeting moment instead lingers in Ava's mind, replaying itself until it becomes impossible to dismiss. When Eva later raises the issue with Isaiah, hoping for reassurance, the conversation takes an unexpected turn. Rather than soothing her concerns, it exposes a deeper fracture between them. Eva hesitates, circling the truth without fully naming it, while Isaiah grows frustrated by her reluctance to commit. He reminds her, gently but firmly, that she has always kept one foot outside the relationship, holding back as though preparing for an inevitable loss. His words are not cruel, but they are precise, cutting through Eva's defenses and forcing her to confront a pattern she would rather deny. What follows is not a dramatic breakup, but something more unsettling, a mutual decision to pause, to step back from the romance without resolving the emotions that brought them together in the first place. The relationship is not ended, but suspended, caught in a space defined by uncertainty rather than hope. In the aftermath, Eva finds herself adrift, questioning whether her hesitation is rooted in fear or intuition. She wonders if she has mistaken caution for self-protection, or if her instincts are warning her against repeating old mistakes. In this vulnerable state, the possibility that Tomas might become a source of emotional support begins to take shape. Tomas offers a different kind of presence, one that does not demand immediate answers or declarations. With him, Eva senses the comfort of being seen without being pressed, yet this potential refuge carries its own complications. Turning to Tomas could provide stability, but it also risks entangling her further in the web of relationships that already feel dangerously intertwined. Back in Uptown, tensions escalate as Isaiah and Ket are drawn into a confrontation that is anything but restrained. Their clash is fueled by unresolved resentment and competing loyalties, each accusing the other of crossing lines that were never clearly drawn. The argument is sharp, emotionally charged, and deeply personal, forcing both to confront the ways in which they have misjudged one another. What begins as hostility carries an undercurrent neither is prepared to acknowledge, a spark of attraction born not from harmony, but from conflict. The intensity of their exchange blurs the line between anger and desire, raising the unsettling question of whether their connection might evolve into something neither Eva nor Ket could have anticipated. The possibility that the sisters' romantic paths might cross in such a way introduces a moral tension that threatens to fracture their already complicated bond. As the week unfolds, Isaiah's behavior becomes increasingly erratic, culminating in his decision to flirt openly with Haley Hamilton. This shift feels less like genuine interest and more like an act of defiance, a way to assert control after feeling constrained by Eva's hesitation and Kat's confrontation. Haley, perceptive and cautious, senses the instability beneath his charm, yet cannot ignore the attention. Isaiah's flirtation creates ripples of unease, suggesting that he is searching for validation rather than connection, and leaving unanswered questions about what he truly wants and who he is willing to hurt in the process. Meanwhile, Ket is blindsided by shocking news that shakes her emotional foundation and places her at odds with someone she loves deeply. The revelation forces her into an impossible position, torn between loyalty and self-preservation, between defending her choices and acknowledging the pain they have caused. The conflict consumes her, coloring every interaction and amplifying her sense of isolation. As she grapples with the fallout, Ket begins to realize that the cost of silence may be greater than the cost of confrontation, even if speaking out risks permanent damage to her relationships. Elsewhere in town, a different kind of courage emerges as Anita Dupree faces a deeply personal challenge. When she confides in Donnie Dupree about her hair loss, the moment is marked by vulnerability rather than shame. Anita refuses to frame the experience as a quiet suffering to be hidden from view. Instead, it becomes a catalyst for action. In a decisive and symbolic gesture, Anita chooses to take control of what her body is doing by cutting and shaving her hair herself, transforming a source of fear into an act of autonomy. The decision is not about appearance. It is about refusing to be defined by loss or diminished by circumstance. Afterward, Anita reveals her new look to Chelsea, turning what could have been a moment of insecurity into one of empowerment and surprise. The gesture carries a quiet message. Strength does not require denial, and resilience can be visible without being performative. Anita's confidence, hard-won and unapologetic, resonates deeply, reframing vulnerability as a form of leadership rather than weakness. The ripple effects of Anita's decision soon extend beyond her inner circle. When she confronts Anastasia directly, the encounter is charged with long-suppressed tension. Anastasia, known for her gossip and subtle manipulations at the country club, underestimates Anita's resolve. What she expects to be a casual exchange quickly becomes a reckoning. Anita's words are measured but unyielding, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The confrontation exposes the consequences of underestimating a woman who has chosen to stop accommodating the comfort of others at the expense of her own dignity. By the time it ends, it is clear that Anastasia will regret provoking a confrontation she was never prepared to win. As the week draws to a close, Fairmont Crest feels irrevocably altered. Relationships once defined by familiarity are now fraught with suspicion and longing. Romantic pauses, unexpected attractions, and acts of personal defiance converge, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation and unease. Eva stands at a crossroads, unsure whether her future lies in retreat or risk. Isaiah's restlessness threatens to ignite conflicts he may not be able to control. Kat's internal battle promises consequences that will not remain contained. And Anita's bold stand serves as a reminder that power, when reclaimed, can unsettle those who rely on silence and compliance to maintain their influence. What appears to be a week of emotional turbulence is, in truth, the beginning of something far more consequential. In Fairmont Crest, every choice leaves a mark, every hesitation invites complication, and every act of courage challenges the fragile balance holding everything together. The question is no longer who will change, but who will be left unrecognizable when the consequences finally arrive.